Many people believe that going no contact is the ultimate way to make a woman miss you. The idea is simple. If you suddenly disappear from her life, she'll realize what she lost and come running back. But this belief is rooted in misunderstanding human psychology, particularly how women respond to emotional distance. No contact can be effective in certain situations, but it's not the magic solution most people think it is. In fact, if used incorrectly, it can make you appear weak rather than strong. Instead of blindly cutting communication, the real key is to approach detachment in a way that makes you more powerful, not more invisible. Women are incredibly perceptive. They can sense when a man is using a tactic rather than acting from genuine self-assurance. If you go no contact purely as a strategy to make her chase you, she will see through it. She will recognize that you're not truly moving on, but instead waiting for her to notice your absence. This puts the power in her hands, making her feel like she controls the situation while you sit in the background hoping for a reaction. And what do most women do in this scenario? They move on because desperation, no matter how subtly it's masked, is never attractive. What's more, women have a strong sense of emotional security. They are wired to seek men who exhibit confidence and leadership. If you suddenly disappear with no real purpose, she might initially wonder where you went, but over time that curiosity fades if there's no compelling reason for her to return. Simply ignoring her does not create attraction. Instead, it often makes a woman feel validated in her decision to pull away in the first place. She may think if he truly valued himself, he wouldn't feel the need to play games. And that is where most men fail. Rather than focusing on absence, the real power lies in presence, specifically in controlling how your presence is felt. This is where strategic detachment comes in. Instead of cutting her off completely, your goal should be to shift your focus so significantly that she starts to feel the emotional distance in a way that creates intrigue rather than finality. You don't disappear in silence. You remove your emotional investment and channel it into something bigger than her. This shift is critical. The moment you stop reacting to her actions, the moment you stop letting her behavior dictate your emotions, you regain control. Women expect men to chase. They expect men to feel hurt when they pull away. They are conditioned to believe that they hold the power in the dynamic. But when you do the opposite, when you remove yourself from that predictable equation, you force her to see you differently. Instead of reinforcing her belief that she can push and pull at will, you create uncertainty. And uncertainty is the birthplace of attraction. Think about it. What is more powerful? Suddenly vanishing and hoping she wonders where you went, or staying in her orbit but so deeply engrossed in your own growth that she starts to question why you're no longer affected by her presence. When a woman senses that you are no longer emotionally tied to her actions, it triggers something primal in her mind. She begins to wonder why. She starts to question whether she made the right decision. And most importantly, she starts to fear that she misjudged your value. This is why no contact, when done out of weakness, fails. If you're sitting around counting the days until she reaches out, you're not truly detached, you're just pretending. And women can feel that energy. They can tell when a man is playing a role versus when he is genuinely unbothered. If you truly want to make an impact, it's not about ignoring her. It's about making your presence so powerful, so undeniable, that she can't help but notice the difference. The key here is self-sufficiency. The moment a woman realizes that you are your own source of validation, that you don't need her to feel complete, her perception of you changes. She may have been certain that you would chase, that you would crumble in her absence. But when she sees you thriving instead, when she notices that your focus has shifted to something greater, she starts to feel the weight of her decision. This doesn't mean you should act cold or rude. It's not about punishing her. It's about demonstrating that you are in control of your life. You don't react to her pullbacks with desperation. You don't use silence as a form of manipulation. You simply live in such a way that she begins to feel the loss on her own. When a woman senses that a man has purpose beyond her, that he moves forward with or without her, she starts to reevaluate. She starts to wonder if she gave up something rare. And that feeling is far more powerful than any text she could receive after a period of silence. So instead of focusing on disappearing, focus on evolving. Instead of cutting her off and waiting, immerse yourself in growth so deeply that she has no choice but to notice. That is how you truly shift the dynamic. That is how you make her see you differently. That is how you become the kind of man she doesn't just miss, but regrets losing. Most men believe that the best way to handle a woman pulling away is to either chase her relentlessly or cut her off entirely. They think that going all in or completely disappearing are the only two options. But the truth is, both of these approaches come from a place of emotional weakness. When you chase, you show that you need her validation. When you completely cut her off without true detachment, you are still acting based on her behavior rather than your own sense of control. The real solution is something far more powerful: controlled indifference. Controlled indifference doesn't mean you stop caring altogether. It doesn't mean you become bitter, resentful, or cold. Instead, it means you emotionally detached in a way that communicates strength, confidence, and high value. It means that you shift your focus away from her and onto something more meaningful without the need to make a grand statement about it. This is where most men fail. They think detachment means silent treatment or passive-aggressive behavior. But a woman can sense when a man is using absence as a manipulation tactic. She can tell when you're just waiting for her to notice you again. And that is not real detachment. That is disguised desperation. True controlled indifference is about reclaiming your emotional state. When she pulls away, when she tests your value by creating distance, your reaction determines everything. Most men either panic and overcompensate or go into a state of forced silence, hoping she will chase. But a truly confident man does neither. He remains unfazed. He continues living his life, pursuing his purpose and enjoying himself, not as an act of defiance, but because his world is not built around her presence. Women are naturally drawn to men who have direction, who are rooted in something deeper than momentary emotions. When a man reacts dramatically to a woman's distance, it signals to her that his sense of stability is tied to her actions. And that, more than anything, is unattractive. It tells her that she has power over him, that his emotional state depends on whether she is present or not. But when a man remains composed, when he continues moving forward without hesitation, it signals something entirely different. It tells her that he is not a man easily shaken, and that makes her rethink everything. This is why controlled indifference works. It creates an environment where a woman has to question her own emotions. She expects you to chase. She expects you to react. But when you don't, when you show up in life fully engaged in your own growth, she begins to wonder. She starts to notice the void left by your emotional presence, not because you forced it, but because you stopped making her the center of your world. The key to making this work is genuine detachment. You cannot fake this. You cannot pretend to be indifferent while secretly hoping she reaches out. Women have an innate ability to sense emotional dishonesty. If you tell yourself that you're moving on just to make her miss you, she will see through it. The power of controlled indifference comes from the fact that it is not a tactic, it is a transformation. This shift in mindset is not just about relationships. It is about the way you operate in every aspect of your life. A man who can control his emotions, who does not allow external factors to dictate his inner world, is a man who naturally commands respect, and respect is the foundation of attraction. When a woman sees that you are centered, that you do not need her attention to feel validated, she begins to reevaluate her perception of you. She starts to question whether she truly understood your value. Control indifference is also about timing. Many men give up too quickly. They expect immediate results. But a woman does not instantly feel the effects of your shift. It takes time for her to realize that your energy has changed, that your focus is elsewhere, and that delay is what makes it so effective. The moment she senses that you are no longer waiting for her response, that you are genuinely detached from the outcome, is the moment she starts to feel uncertain. Uncertainty is a powerful force in attraction. When a woman knows exactly how a man feels, when she knows she can have him at any moment, there is no urgency, there is no mystery. But when she starts to feel that she might have misjudged his level of interest, when she begins to wonder whether she underestimated his ability to move forward without her, that's when she starts to feel something different. That's when she starts to miss him, not because he forced her to, but because he created space for her to do so naturally. The beauty of this approach is that it benefits you regardless of the outcome. If she comes back, it is on your terms, not because you chased or manipulated the situation, but because you became the type of man she doesn't want to lose. If she doesn't return, you still win, because you have built a life that is fulfilling with or without her. Either way, you emerge stronger. And that is the real power of controlled indifference. Most men operate under the assumption that if they show more affection, give more attention, and express their feelings more openly, they will receive the same in return. They believe that a woman will appreciate their consistency, their devotion, and their unwavering commitment. But the truth is, this approach often has the opposite effect. The more predictable and emotionally available a man becomes, the less a woman feels the need to think about him. This is not because women do not appreciate love and loyalty. It is because human nature responds to uncertainty, challenge, and a sense of anticipation. Think about the things in life that captivate us the most. The thrill of a new challenge, the excitement of the unknown, the anticipation of a moment that has not yet arrived. These are the elements that keep us engaged. The same principle applies to attraction. When a woman knows exactly where she stands with a man at all times, when she never has to wonder about how he feels, a certain level of emotional engagement is lost. It is not that she wants to be mistreated or neglected. It is simply that predictability kills desire. This is why understanding the power of emotional distance is crucial. It does not mean withdrawing love or playing manipulative games. It means creating enough space for her to feel the absence of your presence. It means allowing her to miss you, to question, to wonder. Most men do not give a woman the opportunity to experience these emotions. They are too eager to fill every gap, to be immediately available, to reassure her before she even has the chance to feel uncertain. But in doing so, they rob her of the very emotions that fuel attraction. Women are emotional by nature. They do not fall in love through logic, they fall in love through feeling. And one of the most powerful feelings a woman can experience is the realization that she might be losing something valuable. When a man is too readily available, when he gives without restraint, she never has the chance to feel this. She may appreciate him, but she does not desire him in the same way. This is where emotional distance becomes a tool, not for manipulation, but for maintaining attraction. A man who understands this does not give away his attention too easily. He does not rush to validate, to reassure, to prove himself. He allows space to exist. He allows moments of silence, moments of uncertainty, moments where she must question what he is thinking, how he feels, or whether she has his full attention. And in doing so, he triggers something primal: curiosity. Curiosity is the foundation of attraction. The moment a woman starts to wonder, to question, to feel even a hint of uncertainty, her emotions become engaged. This is not to say that a man should be distant or cold. It is simply to say that he should not be an open book at all times. He should not reveal every thought, every emotion, every intention without allowing space for intrigue. Men who struggle with this concept often fear that emotional distance will push a woman away. They worry that if they do not constantly reaffirm their presence, she will lose interest. But the reality is the opposite. When a man is always present, always giving, always seeking her approval, She does not feel the urgency to reciprocate. She does not feel the excitement of pursuit. But when he creates just enough distance, when he remains slightly unpredictable, when he does not always respond in the way she expects, she begins to feel something different. This is the moment when she starts to chase. This is the moment when she starts to invest emotionally, because in the absence of immediate validation, she must seek it. And in seeking it, she becomes more emotionally involved. The key is balance. Too much distance and a woman will feel neglected. Too little distance and she will take your presence for granted. A man who understands this does not withdraw affection entirely, nor does he smother. He creates just enough space for desire to grow, for curiosity to build, for attraction to deepen. This is not a game. It is an understanding of psychology, of how human emotions work. It is an acknowledgement that attraction is not just about love, but about maintaining a dynamic that keeps both people engaged. It is about recognizing that space is not a sign of disinterest, but a necessary component of long-term attraction. A woman does not forget a man who makes her feel something, and she will feel something when she is given the chance to wonder, to miss, to experience the pull of anticipation. This is why the men who are too readily available, too eager to please, often struggle to maintain a woman's interest. They remove the very element that keeps her emotionally invested. The moment a man understands this, his entire approach to relationships changes. He no longer fears distance. He no longer feels the need to prove himself constantly. He trusts that his value is recognized not through words, but through presence, or the absence of it. And when a woman feels that absence, when she begins to crave the presence that was once constant, she realizes something powerful. She does not want to lose him. And that realization changes everything. When a man reacts emotionally to a woman pulling away, he unknowingly confirms her power over him. He signals that his emotional state is entirely dependent on her validation, her presence, and her approval. This dynamic is not only unhealthy, but it is also deeply unattractive. Women do not respond positively to men who appear desperate, needy, or overly reactive. Instead, they are drawn to men who maintain their composure, who demonstrate emotional control, and who continue to focus on their own purpose, regardless of external circumstances. The natural instinct for many men when faced with rejection or emotional distance from a woman is to chase. They feel an overwhelming need to fix the situation, to seek reassurance, to win her back. They might send long messages explaining their feelings, ask repeated questions about where they stand, or attempt to remind her of how much they care. But in doing so, they only push her further away. The reason is simple. Attraction is not built through convincing arguments or emotional pleading. It is built through strength, confidence, and a sense of self-sufficiency. Women test men, sometimes without even realizing it. A woman may pull away, create distance, or become cold, not because she has lost interest, but because she subconsciously wants to see how a man will respond. Will he become insecure and start overcompensating? Will he collapse emotionally, revealing his dependence on her approval? Or will he remain unshaken, demonstrating that his confidence and happiness do not rest solely in her hands? The way a man responds in these moments determines whether she will see him as strong or weak, as someone to admire or someone to pity. The key is to remain grounded. A high-value man understands that his worth is not dictated by any single person's actions. He does not need to chase validation because he validates himself. He does not beg for attention because he knows that true attraction cannot be forced. If a woman pulls away, he does not panic. He simply continues to live his life, to focus on his goals, and to embody the qualities that made him attractive in the first place. This does not mean he is indifferent or emotionally numb. It means he understands that maintaining his own frame is far more powerful than reacting impulsively. Instead of flooding her with messages, he gives her space. Instead of seeking her approval, he remains focused on his path. Instead of trying to pull her back in, he allows her to feel his absence, and in doing so, he creates the very conditions that make her question her own actions. When a woman realizes that a man does not need her in order to feel confident or whole, she begins to see him differently. Instead of feeling pressured, she feels intrigued. Instead of seeing him as just another man who crumbles under emotional pressure, she sees him as someone rare, someone who possesses true strength. This shift in perception is what reawakens attraction. A woman does not truly respect a man who cannot stand on his own. She may appreciate his affection, she may even enjoy the attention, but deep down, she craves a man who remains centered regardless of the situation. When she sees that he is unbothered by emotional turbulence, that he does not allow temporary circumstances to dictate his actions, she feels something different. She feels admiration. And admiration is the foundation of lasting attraction. It is not about ignoring a woman or playing mind games. It is about demonstrating a level of self-respect that commands respect in return. A man who understands this does not resort to emotional outbursts or desperate attempts to regain control. He simply stands firm, allowing his presence, or the lack of it, to speak louder than words. By doing so, he shifts the dynamic entirely. Instead of chasing, he becomes the one who is pursued. Instead of seeking validation, he becomes the one who is valued. And instead of feeling powerless when faced with a woman's emotional fluctuations, he recognizes that true power lies in his ability to remain steady no matter what happens. When a woman pulls away, many men instinctively react by either panicking or withdrawing entirely, assuming that no contact is the best approach. They think that if they disappear completely, she will eventually come back, realizing what she lost. While distance can create space for attraction to grow, simply cutting off all communication without understanding the deeper psychology behind it can actually work against a man rather than in his favor. The key is not to vanish, but to reframe the interaction in a way that shifts the power dynamic naturally. A woman's attraction to a man is not based on whether he speaks to her or not. It's based on how he carries himself, how he presents his value, and whether or not he remains a challenge. The problem with strict no contact is that it is often done from a place of fear and scarcity rather than confidence. If a man pulls away entirely, it can sometimes signal weakness rather than strength. It can show that he is simply reacting rather than taking charge of the situation with intentionality. Instead of disappearing completely, a man must learn to cultivate an air of detachment while still remaining present in his own life. This means showing up in the world as the best version of himself, focusing on his goals and demonstrating that he is not emotionally dependent on her attention. Women are highly perceptive, and they can sense when a man is simply implementing no contact as a strategy to manipulate their emotions. That kind of approach feels inauthentic, and over time it loses its effectiveness. The alternative is much more powerful. Rather than cutting her off completely, a man should focus on subtly shifting the dynamic. Instead of initiating conversations or seeking validation, he should let his actions speak for themselves. If they are in the same social circle, he should be seen enjoying his life, engaging with others, and being completely at ease. If they are connected on social media, his presence should reflect growth, movement, and purpose, not an intentional attempt to make her jealous, but a genuine display of his evolving life. Women do not respond to absence alone, they respond to presence with purpose. When a man disappears without leaving any sense of intrigue, he becomes easy to forget, but when he continues to exist in a way that commands attention, whether directly or indirectly, she begins to notice. She starts to wonder why he is not reacting, why he has not chased, and why he seems unaffected by her emotional distance. This curiosity sparks interest, and interest is the foundation of renewed attraction. The most powerful thing a man can do in these situations is to redirect his energy. Rather than overthinking, he should be investing in himself, in his passions, in his personal development. He should be improving his physique, refining his mindset, and elevating his lifestyle. This does not mean seeking external validation, but rather becoming so deeply engaged in his own growth that he naturally becomes more attractive, both to her and to others. A woman does not want to feel like she is the center of a man's universe. She wants to feel that she is stepping into the life of someone who is already complete. The more he demonstrates that his world is full of meaning, ambition, and fulfillment, the more she begins to realize that she may have underestimated him. And that realization is far more powerful than simply cutting off communication and hoping she comes back. There is a subtle difference between ignoring someone and making them feel the loss of your presence. The former is passive, the latter is strategic. When a man withdraws his energy while still moving forward, he does not just disappear, he creates a sense of mystery. And mystery, when combined with strength, is one of the most potent forces in attraction. This approach is not about games or manipulation, it is about demonstrating genuine self-respect. It is about showing rather than telling that he is a man of value. The moment a woman senses that he is no longer seeking her approval, she begins to reevaluate everything. She starts to wonder if she made the right decision, if she was too quick to assume that he would always be there waiting, and in that moment of doubt, her perception of him begins to shift. By mastering this dynamic, a man ensures that he is never at the mercy of someone else's emotional fluctuations. He takes control not by force, but by focus, by becoming the kind of man who does not need to chase, but instead draws people toward him effortlessly. When a man faces rejection or distance from a woman, his immediate response is often to react emotionally, either by withdrawing completely or by chasing after her. But neither of these responses creates the outcome he truly desires. Instead of focusing on the woman's actions or words, the most powerful thing he can do is turn inward, strengthening himself in a way that naturally changes the dynamic. True power lies not in reacting, but in transforming. When a man refines himself, his energy shifts, and the world, including the woman who distanced herself, takes notice. One of the biggest mistakes men make in these situations is assuming that their worth is dependent on a woman's validation. This belief causes them to either fight for attention or disappear out of pride, neither of which actually solves the problem. The key is understanding that attraction is not about words or even grand gestures, it is about presence. A man who builds himself into someone of undeniable value does not need to convince a woman to notice him. She will naturally sense the change and respond accordingly. Rather than wasting energy analyzing her behavior, a man should be using that time to grow. He should be channeling his emotions into his purpose, his ambitions, and his self-improvement. When a man becomes deeply invested in his own journey, he stops needing external validation. This shift is not just mental. It is something that others can feel. People, including women, are drawn to those who exude a sense of direction and certainty. When a man embodies these qualities, his absence is felt in a completely different way, not as a childish silent treatment, but as a noticeable transformation that sparks curiosity. A woman may have initially distanced herself because she felt he was too available, too predictable, or too dependent on her presence for his happiness. But when he changes his focus and starts moving forward, something interesting happens. She starts to wonder what she might have overlooked. She begins to notice that he is no longer seeking her approval, that he is not reacting the way she expected. This unpredictability makes her reassess him. The core of this transformation is confidence, not the superficial kind that comes from acting tough, but the deep, unshakable confidence that is built through action. A man who challenges himself physically, mentally, and emotionally develops a quiet strength that does not need validation. This is the kind of confidence that women respect and are drawn to. When a man stops chasing and starts elevating himself, he creates a natural magnetism. Social proof also plays a significant role in how a woman perceives a man's value. If she sees that other people, friends, colleagues, or even strangers, respect and admire him, she begins to look at him differently. This is why it is crucial for a man to cultivate meaningful connections and surround himself with people who uplift him. When a woman sees that he is valued by others, she starts to reconsider her own assessment of him. It is not about making her jealous in a manipulative way, but about genuinely becoming someone whose life is full and enriching. Women are naturally attracted to men who have a strong sense of identity and purpose. If she left because she felt he was stagnant or too dependent, seeing him grow and evolve will challenge her perception of him. She may start to feel that she acted prematurely, that she underestimated his potential. However, the goal should never be to change for the sole purpose of winning someone back. That mindset still places power in her hands. Instead, the focus should always be on self-improvement for its own sake. A man who embraces this mindset not only increases his attractiveness, but also ensures that no matter the outcome, he emerges stronger and more fulfilled. If she comes back, it will be because she recognizes his value, not because he begged for her attention. And if she does not, he will not feel the loss as he once would have, because his world will have expanded in ways that make one person's absence insignificant. This is true strength, not relying on tactics or games, but on becoming a man who does not need to chase because he is always moving forward.